My name is Darren, and I have the story of 3 Russian fakes.
My name's Gina, and I'm going to tell you about the godmother of forensic science who pioneered the industry as we know it today.
My name is Adri, and I'm going to tell you all about Lily, a German vixen that inspired the American dream.
What do all of these things have to do with the word doll? Find out in this week's History Bluffs. Welcome to this week's episode of History Bluffs, where truth is stranger than fiction. And now I want to welcome to the show, it's your host, Chris.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of History Bluffs. As Adam mentioned, where truth is indeed sometimes stranger than fiction. So welcome.
I did, and it is.
Our show. You did. It is. It often is. Let us begin with meeting our armchair historians, shall we? And I'm just going to go in the order that I see them. And at the top of the screen is Darren. Hello, Darren.
Hey, Chris.
How are you today?
I'm great.
Awesome. Darren, let's see. You're an avid traveler like myself. Have you ever been to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, by any chance?
I have not been to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I've been to Knoxville. That's I think the only ville I've been to is Knoxville.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not that far. Pigeon Forge is actually not that far. But Pigeon Forge is the home of Dollywood, Dolly Parton's theme park. Yeah.
Oh, not Salvador Dali, Dolly Parton.
Not Salvador Dali. No. It's different.
Dolly World is much stranger and more interesting.
Dolly World is indeed much stranger. Yes. So, so Darren, what if you had a ticket to Dolly World? What would be your favorite ride?
The one with the 2 mountains.
I said Dolly World, not Dollywood. All right, very good.
Okay.
Let's bring up Gina. Gina, come on out, Gina.
Same question. I love the motorboats.
No. You are going to get a different one.
Okay.
Have you? Do you like fancy dresses and getting put on makeup and all getting yourself?
I love that. I am a girly girl and a tomboy all in one. I don't know how, but it worked.
Well, that's good. That's versatile. When was the last time you got dolled up like that?
Oh gosh, a couple of weeks ago, just for a fancy night out, just for fun.
Nice.
It was just
night out, just for fun. Very nice.
With my hubby, it was I'm not gonna lie, we looked pretty. We looked nice.
Very nice.
Fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, welcome. All right. Welcome indeed. And then our third armchair historian is Adri. Hello, Adriana.
Hi, Chris.
Adri, when you're looking very scientific with your glasses on tonight. Yes, indeed. When you were back in school, did you ever do anything with test tubes?
Probably not. I was.
All right. I'm guessing you might have done it in high school, but you probably forgot all about it. Anyway, if you were in Scotland, you might have been involved with Dolly the sheep, cloned in Scotland. In a test tube. So, I bring all these up because as our topic this evening is doll, D-O-L-L. Doll is the inspired topic. So, Adam, if you would, let's explain to the audience why we're talking about doll and how this game works.
Oh, let's do it. We've got rules. This is a game show, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the rules, Chris.
Thank you very much. So, we have these 3 armchair historians. They are inspired by the topic. Tonight's topic is, of course, the word doll. 2 of them are telling true stories. One of them is bluffing. The true stories are factual stories. The bluff story is fictional. It's a fictional premise. It may have some truth to it. It may be about a true location, or there may be some true life people involved in the story. But the premise of the bluff story overall is fictional. And we ask the audience to not help during the show. We'll have opportunities for banter back and forth between the rounds. Yes, between the rounds of story to hear and ask questions and make comments. But then at the end of the show, after the third round of the show, we will all have an opportunity, ourselves and the audience, to make a guess as to which one of Darren, Adri, or Gina are tonight's bluff on the topic of doll. Yeah. So we asked you not to Google anything or put anything out in the questions that would debunk someone's story in round 1 or round 2. Save that for the end after round 3. And speaking of round 1, round 2, and round 3, that is how the show is broken up. We have 3 different rounds. Each historian gets an opportunity to tell their story in 3 parts. The first round is 75 seconds. The second round is condensed down to 60 seconds. And then the third round is condensed down to 45 seconds to wrap up their story. So, Adam, do you have anything to add?
No, Chris, I think you've covered everything. I say we get to the game.
I say we get to the game as well. Adam is going to put up above my head on the screen our round tracker 22,000. And
look at that baby shine.
There it is. It's shining like it's brand new. So we're going to call our first historian up. And when you come on screen, it's going to be Darren. Darren, when you come on screen, you're going to see a sundial appear. When you hear the boom, you're going to have 75 seconds to begin your story. So let's get Darren on screen and let's hear his first round.
All right. Sounds like we are going into round number 1. Darren, you're in the box. Prepare yourself.
So if there's anything more Russian than vodka or caviar, it's this, the Matryoshka nesting doll, or its smaller cousin, the babushka. But are these things actually Russian, or did the Russians just casually drive their tanks across the border and steal them from somewhere, like on a typical Sunday afternoon in the Crimea or the Donbass? The fact is, most of the things we associate most with Russia aren't Russian at all. Take vodka, for example. According to Russian legend, a monk from the Chudov monastery inside the Kremlin first invented vodka through a secret and mysterious process in 1430. But the thing is, the first mention of the word vodka in print was made in 1405 in Poland by an official with the title Recorder of Deeds. And let's face it, inventing vodka certainly qualifies as a deed. I mean, without vodka, the dude could not properly abide. He'd just be drinking Kahlua and cream. So vodka and caviar and these things, they're not Russian at all.
Ooh, interesting. All right. So thank you, Darren, for that opening salvo. And let's bring up Adri. Adri, what do you think of hearing that the dude couldn't do his deed without vodka, and if it wasn't made in Russia? What do you think, Adri, of Darren's story?
Well, I'm kind of torn because everything is very believable. Russians stealing things. Wow. Who would have thought? Yeah, who could imagine that? Really thrown off by the word babushka, which I always thought meant Russian grandmother and or bottom half of a body, like a derriere. I thought was also a babushka. So been saying that wrong for 38 years. So right now I'm not ready to point fingers. I'm at 50-50 with Darren right now.
50-50 with Darren. All right. Gina, let's hear you chime in. Gina, what do you think?
Well, I'm thinking if babushka means the bottom of when you pull the top off, and that's the babushka, that scans for me. However, Darren told us a whole bunch of stuff about everything but dolls and how Russia sucks, and so I think that he is trying to mislead us and take us down a path where those poor little dolls can't even go because they have no feet, and he's trying to trick us. That's just
Misdirection.
Classic misdirection indeed.
Yeah.
Classic misdirection indeed.
Distraction.
All right. Well, yeah,
but it's working so far because I'm intrigued.
Yes, and he's working the dolls right now. He's working the 3 dolls right now, trying to again just visually distract us while this is going on. But let's keep that in mind. All right, so we're watching you, Darren. We're watching you.
Sleight of hand.
We are now going to bring up Adri. Adri, you're going to come up next. and you're going to give us your first round of your story. And when you see the dial come up and you hear the boom, you are on the clock. 75 seconds.
Excellent. I'm so excited to tell this story. Okay, so Barbie, as we know it, was created by a woman named Ruth Handler and her husband in 1945. They created Mattel. After seeing their young daughter playing with paper dolls that were the figure of a full-grown woman, they were like, that's weird. She's a little girl. Why isn't she playing with her baby dolls? Why does she want to play with like these mature paper dolls? And so they began the quest of the model that they wanted to use as their figure. Ruth and her husband realized that there was a market out there for young girls who wanted a toy that would let them imagine their futures. The Barbie they ended up creating was molded after Build Lily, a German toy based off a German comic strip. In the comic strip, Lily was a single and ready-to-mingle, gold-digging sex symbol with an over-the-top body that featured a disproportionately large bust. Lily was a buxom, flirtatious, and racy doll originally created and intended to be a racy gag gift for German men and sold in a smoke shop in Germany.
All right. Well, a lot of detail there. Adri.
Yes.
Darren, we're going to bring you out first. A toy to imagine your future, kind of like vodka in Russia. What do you think, Darren?
I'm just picturing like the smoke shop that all these old men were going into, and there's sort of like a little Pied Piper, and all the children ran in instead, and instead of coming out with cigarettes, they came out with toys, I guess.
As it's
It's a
Sounds very
non-Disney
German.
version of the Pied Piper. Yes, indeed. Yes. It sounds like I can't think of the brothers.
brothers coming out to play.
There's more. Darren has more dolls.
There we go.
Wow.
Gina, what do you think about Adri's story, Gina?
Well, I love that if this bodacious woman was placed into these smoke shops as gag gifts, you know how men and their dolls and all of that, yet they have no genitals, if you've ever looked underneath. So I find that fascinating. They were like halfway there, but not really. Like it's just a weird
That's right.
concept to me.
Perhaps they were just
boobs,
playing into
no
the
genitals.
they were just playing into the attention span of average man, I think.
Yeah, it's just
Exactly.
like
That's all they needed. That's all
Right.
Eyes up here, guys. Eyes up
With
here.
boobs that
Okay.
big, that's all you need. Yeah.
Don't get
It
lost
just
in the
gets
details.
weirder from here. Don't worry. It gets weirder.
Okay.
All right, let's see if Gina's going to get weird in her first story.
Yes.
Gina, we're going to bring you up, and you're going to have 75 seconds for your first round.
Oh,
story
hey,
is 75
Chris.
seconds. Yeah.
I just realized something. For our audio-only listeners, they are missing the magic of how each time Darren is cut down a little bit by a fellow historian, he pops another doll out of the nesting doll. I just think that's worth saying out loud. Okay,
Well, thank
so
you for
that's
sharing that. That's definitely some sort of defensive mechanism on his
I
part
think
that he
so.
pops a doll every time someone attacks his story.
I haven't got to a doll as short as Gina yet. So.
okay. All
Does it
right.
have
Gina.
genitals?
Just let's find out in round two on that. But Gina, let's find out your round one story.
Whoa.
Opening salvo. Here it comes, and I can't wait to hear this. You have 75 seconds when the sundial comes up.
Which story should I tell, Charlie? Okay, that's a good one. All right, so tonight I'm going to tell you the story of the nutshell study of unexplained death. It starts in Chicago in 1878, where a woman named Frances Glesser Lee started to just be fascinated by all things forensic. She would find newspaper clippings and just kind of like notice these like cool scenes, because back then death was not as prevalent as it is today. And so as she moved into her teens, she started reading Sherlock Holmes. And then her mother and her used to build doll houses when she was little. So what she started to do is she started to take real crime scenes, real death scenes, and create little miniature to scale doll houses that replicated the death scenes. Now, I want to tell you that these were like exactly real. She used real material. Like she would take little toothpicks and stick lead in them to make pencils, like everything she could possibly do. She had working lights. If there were, she would create the scene exactly as such. She would miniaturize the newspapers. She would have the people sitting. She would stitch the clothes, and she would rag out the clothes if they were a little older based on what the victims were wearing. She would set the mood by the sunlight and the shadows, and she had real working lights inside. So this would be an exact replica of a murder scene. And I will tell you what she did with all of that later on and how it still affects us today.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Gina. Adri, what do you think? Death was not as prevalent back then. Apparently, neither was quick crime solving. If it took her time to make all these miniature details and everything, I imagine how long that could have taken. What do you think, Adri?
If Gina's not bluffing, I am seriously concerned for all of our lives. I will have nightmares between the first doll and what Darren's got transpiring over there. I am concerned, and I'm hopeful that Gina is bluffing. That's all I have to say.
I'll never tell.
Hopeful that Gina is bluffing. Darren, what do you think?
I was just stuck at the statement that death was not as prevalent back then.
or not as reported. I don't know.
In a way, it's mathematically true because there weren't as many people.
Right, fewer.
And like the life expectancy was much lower, so that makes it a bluff right there. So
that's the thing you're gonna fixate on.
I got
the details.
well, I was also thinking about it. It was so long ago that she was making tiny little candles to light the houses, and I could just picture them all burning down with these tiny little candles in there.
Fire safety is a thing.
Yeah, unless she made tiny fire extinguishers too.
That's right. That's right. Well, all right. We'll find out more in round number 2. We'll find out more on Gina's round number 2. So we are going to move forward now. We heard all 3 armchair historians, as you can see in the round tracker 22,000. The first 3 dots are all filled up. So Adam, that takes us to round number 2.
Let's do it. Round 2.
So we have heard the openings of the Rushing Nesting Dolls, Barbie and the American Dream, and the nutshell story of unexplained death. We're going to go back to Adri to start the second round. Adri, I'm going to have you come out here. You're going to see the sundial. And this time, as I mentioned earlier, in round 2, the time is condensed down to 60 seconds. So you have 60 seconds to tell us the middle portion of your story. The floor is yours.
Perfect. So just to sum up what Lily was like, she was often wearing scantily clad clothes with a snappy and seductive comebacks for slobbering men. That was her persona in the comic strip. Lily was supposed to be a one-off comic, but was such a hit that she became a regular. And in 1955, the doll that I just spoke about began to be sold widely throughout Germany. What they didn't expect is that the German children, specifically German little girls, started to become obsessed with this doll. And so it just exploded. It was huge over there. And then during a family vacation to Switzerland, Ruth and her husband came across the doll and became enchanted by her womanly shape. Lily was the kind of doll that Ruth had envisioned to be their model for their future Barbie. She decided she was going to take this pornographic doll and rebrand her as an all-American sweetheart and named her Barbie after her daughter that inspired the whole thing, whose name was Barbara. And I'll finish the rest in round 3.
Okay, all right. Darren, do you find any truth to something coming out of Germany and exploding?
I do.
Okay.
And
Too soon.
A little latent, but there it is.
It's after the war, though. It does track a bit of saying that they created this comic strip with a blonde with big tits, and it was really popular in the 1950s somehow. Like nobody had done that before. But I'm a little disappointed in the story that it's the name Barbara inspired the name Barbie, when we all know, if we've seen the classic movie The Rat Race, that it was Klaus Barbie, one of Hitler's closest assistants that the name came from.
Of course.
The Barbie Museum, yes.
Yes.
It's a Barbie museum. Yes. Gina, what are your thoughts on this new revelation to Adri's story from Darren? What do you think?
Well, now it makes me want to start a study. Are big boobs attractive to everybody? That is just fascinating to me.
The
But
Germans
question-
did study that.
Yeah, and my other question was, and maybe Adri, you do or don't know this, but was it done in both East and West Germany? I just out of curiosity because that was when it was divided, correct? Right?
You
No,
are correct.
actually.
You're
No, it
not
wasn't
correct.
divided. I'm not correct.
You
Okay.
are correct.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm going by what Chris said. I thought it was correct.
Germany wasn't divided until after World War II. So
Right.
Oh yeah, but like the 1955 Barbie thingy, right? That's after.
Yeah. It should
So-
come. Yeah.
Oh,
If
that's
I had
interesting.
to guess, I would say
Mhm.
it was East Germany because East Germany was run by the
Mhm.
Russians, right?
Yeah.
And they're crazy. So this sounds right.
Yeah. I wonder if they had the first Barbie come out of the second Barbie come out of the
Yes.
the fourth Barbie.
Nice.
Here comes.
Darren's
Here it comes.
taking-
Oh, he did it. He pulled another doll out of the doll.
Yeah, that makes more sense because I've never seen a
goodness.
Russian doll with just 3. So now there are
Down to
4.
5.
Okay,
There's
perfect.
an army of them.
Oh, tell me there's
all
more.
right. So Gina, we're gonna have you come, Gina, to the center square here and
Okay.
tell us your round number 2 story of the nutshell study of unexplained death
Okay.
inspiration here. So the
Okay.
floor is yours. When you see the sundial, you get 60 seconds in round 2. Go ahead.
Okay.
So scared.
So Frances was like really interested because this was the time of the century where ballistics were coming into play, fingerprints were coming into play, and she became friends with one of her brother's Harvard roommates, who was the very first forensic detective in the whole United States. His name was George Burgess McGrath, and Frances was a millionaire, so she donated a whole wing to Harvard and put McGrath in charge of that so that he could begin doing using her doll houses, her nutshells, and his experience in ballistics and things like that to start to create these crime scenes. And they created a school that people would actually invite detectives to come over, because even though the FBI used psychology and other things, the detectives didn't know anything about that. So she would take these scenes and she would give it to each detective and give them 90 minutes and 2 nutshells to look at only with a flashlight and to decide whether or not people were be suspects or proven innocent just based on the 90 minutes and inspecting those nutshells.
All right. Thank you, Gina. So Darren, let's hear your take on Gina. And they weren't private dicks, but they were dicks nonetheless, getting 2 nutshells. What do you think of this story here?
What if was their answer always the person had a peanut allergy or something with all those nutshells laying around? I don't understand.
Do you want to know why she called them nutshells?
Oh,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Because
No.
Yes. Why,
because
Gina?
it would sum up the story in a nutshell.
That was a premature sad trombone. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna do
it
again.
was premature.
I'm not gonna
But
do it again.
appropriate enough.
Premature is appropriate for this one, I suppose.
Yeah,
The story's a little bit nuts.
it is.
Adri, what do you think of Gina's story, second round?
I already know.
She started with a sigh. She's
so
had
many
enough.
so many thoughts right now. The one thing that really stood out to me, and I hope that you know, Gina, since she donated a hall at Harvard, usually they name the hall after her. So was that the case? Is she?
Give me 1 second. There is a name for it. Hold on one moment. Give us some music, Adam. Because
Well, I
no
could fill in
problem.
part of this. Adri, her name was Frances, but nobody called her Frances. Everybody called her Psycho.
Yes.
Oh, there it is. Oh,
There it is.
It was. Give me a second because.
Alright,
Okay.
here's
It was the Department of Legal Medicine
you're
at
fine.
Harvard. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. You can keep the music though if you want. It was called the
we'll
Department of Legal Medicine at Harvard, and George was considered the chair, and her things. She still called her things nutshells. So that's all you need to know.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Well,
Perfect.
we'll go from nutshells to hard shells, and Darren and your hard shell dolls there. What
Nice.
we're going to do is we're going to bring Darren up for his second round story. He's going to come in the center square. When he sees the sundial, he's going to have 60 seconds. And Darren, the floor is yours.
Okay, so vodka's not Russian, but what about the other ones I mentioned? How about caviar? Well, that's a little trickier. Caviar, as we know it, originated in the 10th century on the Caspian Sea, which admittedly Russian does border on it, but so do Iran and Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Azerbaijan. And all of those places make caviar too. So caviar was never exclusively Russian. And to make matters worse, the Caspian Sea of late has become so polluted that the sturgeon population, which is what caviar is made from, has plummeted so far that now most of the caviar is made in a much cleaner part of the world, China. And China now accounts for over 60% of world caviar production. So while caviar may have originated in Russia, chances are that mouthful of salty stuff you spent $800 on came from somewhere else.
All right. Adri, caviar, made in China. What do you think?
I mean, everything else is. Why not caviar as well? I'm still trying to relate, like Gina said earlier, how the dolls kind of spurred this off, but then we're focusing on more distractions here. Russia, now we have China and Uzbekistan and a bunch of stands. So I'm hoping that, like you said, like round 3 will reel it all together. I don't know. I'm still torn. For the sake of humanity, I want Gina to be bluffing, but I don't know anymore.
All right. Gina, what do you think?
Caviar doesn't come from Russia or China. It comes from fish.
Oh my God.
Okay.
No.
Don't encourage it.
No, yeah,
That's all I got.
very-
So Darren's lying.
Okay. All right. We have a
Based
very
on that.
early,
Wow.
very early bluff accusation, but we're now going to go to
That's an
we're gonna
accusation.
move forward. We had an accusation.
That's
So, if you look up at the top of our screen, for those of you watching, we have 3 dots filled in for round number 2 on the round tracker 22,000. So, we are now going to move Adam to round number 3.
Let's go. Here we are, Chris. We are in round 3.
All right. We have had Darren begin a round. We've had Adri begin a round. So, Gina, it is your turn to begin our round 3. This is our wrap-up round where each of our contestants in 45 seconds will wrap up their stories. And then we will determine which of our 3 armchair historians we think is bluffing. So, Gina, when you see the sundial, you're going to have 45 seconds, and the floor is yours.
And don't forget, Chris, our audience, we have some viewers. They are welcome to chime in with the comments if they think they know who the bluff is as well. And
Indeed.
on that note, Gina, the floor is yours.
If someone went to the school that she began, they got a degree in called HAPS, which means a Harvard Associate's degree in police detecting. I mean, into police. Oh, there's a word. Hold on. Don't go. I'll come back to HAPS in a second to tell you. Oh, police science. I'm so sorry. Okay. But anyway, so she used this thing because people would come and they would look at it and they would start to create a narrative and they could see things like, oh, maybe that woman didn't try to kill herself with the stove on because she was peeling potatoes. Why would she go through the trouble of peeling potatoes if she was going to kill herself, et cetera, et cetera. So they would start to come up with these stories and it would start to create these awesome details paired with interviews and things like that. She eventually died, and in her will, she left this all to the Maryland medical examiner's office, which is the one that uses all of the state-of-the-art equipment to this day. So for the last 75 years, her nutshell dioramas were used in forensic and still are in forensic science today. No, I know. It's
Okay.
good.
All right. Adri, what do you think of Gina's wrap up there?
Very insightful. I'm a little more relieved with all the backup of data and everything like that. I don't have any questions. I think you summed it up really well. So great job, Gina.
All right. That will move us over to Darren. Darren, any thoughts, Darren, on the HAPS process and what else Gina told us about?
I'm still stuck on nutshells because nutshells implied there were nuts, which are a snack. And what kind of snack? A Scooby snack. And if it wasn't for those meddling kids, that lady would have gotten away with it.
That's right.
No, she
Yes,
wouldn't even
indeed.
have a job, Darren. She wouldn't even have a
She
job.
would not. She
That's
would
true.
not. All right. Well, speaking of jobs, someone has a job to finish their second round as their third round of the story. And that is going to be Darren. Darren, we're going to have you come out and finish up your story. So when you see the sundial, you have 45 seconds to wrap up your story in the end.
All right, let's look at the last fake. These Matryoshka dolls. This one, if you could read it. It's really hard to see. I think in the camera it says "made in USSR." So this one was made in Russia, and they've been a staple of Russian exports since they were first featured as part of the Nutcracker ballet scenery in 1890. But the thing is, Sergei Milutin, who is the set designer for the St. Petersburg Ballet, well, he actually bought his nesting dolls sort of down the road, about 300 kilometers away, in the port town of Kotka, Finland, where they're called Munsala dolls, and they've been made there for over 1,000 years.
Fight,
So-
fight.
Oh, that's a
All
revelation.
right. Fight indeed. Gina, what do you think of Darren's version of Mythbusters here, breaking up all these
Oh, he
things
took
that
out another
Russia
doll.
is known for?
Oh my God, there's more. There's more. They're so tiny right now.
So many
cute.
of them.
So cute. That is an inch to a man and an inch to a woman, 3 to a man. Okay, so now we have. So he said that they were the Matryoshka dolls, and I'll just have to say I have to wait until I hear Adri's story to find out if Darren's my Matryoshka for the liar.
Well, you get first Matryoshka of refusal. So, Adri,
Oh my God, are you kidding?
oh my,
That's
that a
a doll.
that's the vodka that comes in the bottom of all those.
It's a nutshell.
All right, Adri, let's jump over to Adri and let's find out Adri's wrap up here. Adri,
Yeah.
when you come onto the center of the screen, you're going to have 45 seconds to wrap up your story, and the floor is yours.
Perfect. So they're in Switzerland. They find the stall. They're like, yes, this is the one. They ship it off to Japan for a facelift and rebranding. 4 years later, in 1959, Barbie makes her big debut, billed as a fashion model, and she became an instant hit. And in 1961, Barbie got a boyfriend named Ken, who was named after Ruth's son. So Barbara and Ken inspired Barbie and Ken. One problem, though, is that the makers of Lily looked at Barbie and said, this is the exact same doll. Like, how are they, stealing our product like that? So the Lily makers struck a deal with the Mattel's. They struck a deal with the Mattel's competition and eventually sued them, which their lawsuit went blank. But then in 2001, they sued them again, saying that they wanted a portion of sales going all the way back to 1959. And the judge said, nope, tough titties.
All right, Gina, we're going to give you the first option here to comment on Adri's wrap up of the story there.
I'm floored at the moment. I really don't have a point of view just yet. I'll think about it after this round. But in my mind, Barbie and Ken were not brother and sister every time I played with them anyway. So now my whole childhood is like,
Yeah.
because they were
Really?
always supposed to be dating. So I didn't know it was named after their children who were assumingly related, presumably. So
Yes.
gross. Okay, so that sparks a lot of really
Changes everything for us.
a lot of recovery going on right now. Okay, and then that's all I got. I got to think about it though, because I'm not sure which story I don't believe, because I know I'm not bluffing. So
All right. Well, Darren, how about you? What do you think of the potentially incestuous Barbie and Ken relationship?
Well, there's that, but you're also just not going to convince me that Barbie went to Japan and her boobs got bigger. That just does not track with anything I've seen about Japan.
Okay. All right. Well, we have heard from Darren and his Russian nesting dolls and all the other things that he debunked about what we think we knew about Russia. We've heard from Adri and the disturbing couple that had made this use a pornographic doll as an inspiration to create a doll named after their daughter, who then later dates a doll named after their son. And we've heard from Gina, who has the story of a woman who took apparently weeks and weeks and weeks to make all these miniature little candles and dolls and everything to solve crimes that leaves us in the dark on how fast crime solving was back then, even though death was not as prevalent because there was fewer people.
No, it was not.
So it is time for us to take all of that information and determine who we believe is tonight's bluff. So as Adam mentioned earlier, we're going to ask those folks watching, please chime in the comments who you think is bluffing, and I will do the same. I'm gonna poll our historian panel. I'll start with Darren. Darren, who do you think is bluffing? You're getting some comments from.
Yeah, some info from the Finnish people. It's hard for me to believe. Wow, that's a weird echo.
Dolls.
It's hard for me to believe that something so American as Barbie came from our enemies, the Japanese and the Germans.
Yeah.
So you're bluffing.
Ooh.
Wow.
Wow. Those are fighting words. But I'm going to take it.
Word.
All right.
All right, we may be having some technical delays with our host, Chris. It looks like Verizon has wronged him as well as AT&T. So I will step in as the announcer and send it over. Adri, who do you want to accuse as the bluff?
Adri, let's go to you. Those are fighting words indeed. So Adri, what do you think? Who do you think is bluffing?
I am going to go with, Darren. I'm going to go with Darren against my better judgment.
It doesn't get any smaller, actually.
No, he can't pull any more dolls out. That's it. All right, Gina, how about you? What do you feel?
Well, Charlie McCarthy and I have talked about it, and I disagree with him when I say that he thinks that Adri's story is really hot, because he thinks that Barbie is very hot. So he thinks Darren is bluffing because, yep, those dirty Russians, they lie about everything. So I go with Darren as the bluffer, if I'm not picking myself. Thank you so much, Charlie McCarthy. Bye, everybody.
All right. Well, thank you for that. All right. Well, now that we have gotten some predictions here, we're going to see who is correct, because guess what? Only I know who the bluff is, and I'm going to reveal it right now. Could your bluff for this episode of History Bluffs, was it Darren? Or do you think with the creepy dolls, Darren? Or was your bluff Adri with the Barbie doll? Or was it the murder doll with Gina? Behold, for I shall reveal it now. The bluff for this whole time has been Darren with the creepy dolls. He did. I think it was the props, Darren. You just you scared us away with the dolls. It was great. Well done, sir. Well done.
Well done.
It's all distraction.
I win.
It is indeed. Well, I am going to close the show. It looks like we have lost to the ether webs of Verizon's trenches our host, Chris. But thank you, Chris, for doing such a fantastic job. We do appreciate it. And I want to thank all of our historians tonight, Darren and Adriana and Gina. Fantastic stories you've spun. And don't forget, everybody, we are here every week at 7:30 Eastern Time. And we hope that you join us again for another episode of History Bluffs, where truth is stranger than fiction.